Willow Street. The call came just after sunrise. Mei Lin was still tying her hair back when her phone buzzed with a message from Mrs. Alvarez, the retired schoolteacher who lived 2 doors down. 2 government vehicles parked near the corner, agents walking around, just letting you know. Mei Lin froze. Not because she feared ICE, she had nothing to hide, but because she knew what their presence meant for the street she had been trying so hard to stabilize. Willow Street was a fragile ecosystem. One loud rumor could shatter it. One misunderstanding could turn neighbor against neighbor. She stepped outside. The morning light was soft, almost gentle, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. 2 dark SUVs idled near the curb. 3 agents stood by the fence, checking a clipboard, speaking quietly. They weren't aggressive. They weren't knocking on doors. They were simply present, and that alone was enough to send ripples through the neighborhood. Across the street, the teenage newcomer, the same boy who had helped the elderly neighbor with groceries, stood frozen on the steps of his apartment building. His hands trembled slightly. Not guilt, not wrongdoing, just fear born from stories, headlines, and the unknown. Mei Lin walked toward him. "Breathe," she said softly. "They're not here for you." He swallowed hard. "How do you know?" "Because I asked." She nodded toward the agents. She had already approached them, introduced herself, and asked if they needed assistance. They explained they were looking for a specific individual with a long-standing warrant, someone who hadn't lived on Willow Street for over a year. They were polite, professional, focused. But fear doesn't care about details. Fear fills in the blanks with the worst possible answers. The boy's shoulders loosened slightly. "I didn't do anything wrong." "I know," she said, "and they know too." A door slammed somewhere down the block. A newcomer family hurried inside, whispering urgently. A neighbor peeked through blinds. A shopkeeper locked his gate even though it was barely 7 a.m. Mei Lin felt the weight of the moment settle on her like a heavy coat. This was the test she had been preparing for. Not a dramatic raid, not a confrontation, but the quiet panic that spreads when uncertainty arrives wearing a badge. She walked back toward the agents. "Would you mind if I speak to the neighbors?" she asked. One of them nodded. "Of course. We're not here to disrupt anyone." So she stood in the center of Willow Street, raised her voice just enough to carry, and said, "Everyone listen. The agents are here for one person who hasn't lived here in a long time. They're not checking doors. They're not questioning families. They're not patrolling. They're doing one specific job, and then they'll leave." A few heads appeared from windows. A few doors cracked open. The street held its breath. "And," she added, "you are safe. You are part of this community. No one here is alone." The teenage boy stepped forward, standing beside her. Mrs. Alvarez came out with her cane. The shopkeeper unlocked his gate again. Slowly, Willow Street began to exhale. The agents finished their search within minutes. They thanked Mei Lin for her help, got back into their vehicles, and drove away without incident. No arrests, no shouting, no chaos. Just a quiet departure, leaving behind a neighborhood that had been shaken, but not broken. As the engines faded into the distance, Mei Lin looked around. The street was still tense, still uncertain, but something had changed. People weren't hiding. They were gathering. The teenage boy turned to her. "You weren't scared?" She smiled, tired but steady. "Of course I was. But fear isn't a reason to disappear. It's a reason to show up." He nodded slowly, absorbing the lesson. Willow Street wasn't perfect. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't simple. But it was learning. One morning, one misunderstanding, one fragile moment at a time. And Mei Lin felt that same quiet work in hope rise again. Not triumphant, not bright, but steady, the kind that keeps a community standing.